What's the difference between failure and training? How many times can you be told no before you just give up? 10 times? 20? What about 30? What if the world told you at every single turn that you weren't good enough, that you didn't have the looks, the skills, or the smarts to land even a basic job? What if you were the only person rejected out of 24 applicants for a job at a fast food chicken joint? For most people, that's where the story ends. But for one man, it was just the beginning. This is the story of a self-admitted failure, an outcast who couldn't catch a break, a man who looked in the mirror and probably wondered what was so wrong with him that the world wouldn't give him a single chance. This is the story of how that man, armed with nothing but persistence and a single idea he discovered on a trip to America, built a global empire that serves over 1 billion people. This is the story of the rejections that created a billionaire. The year is 1988, and a brand new KFC is hiring in Hangzhou, China. It's a huge deal. 24 people apply for the new jobs. After the interviews, 23 of them are hired. The one person left standing, the sole rejection, is a skinny, unassuming man named Ma Yun. It wasn't his first rejection, and it definitely wouldn't be his last. But this one was different. It was a public, humiliating declaration that he just wasn't good enough. By any normal measure, he was a failure. Today, the world knows that failure as Jack Ma, a man whose personal fortune has been estimated at over $28 billion. The company he founded is an e-commerce titan that has completely reshaped global business. So how does someone go from being the one person KFC wouldn't hire to one of the richest and most influential figures on the planet? The answer is a masterclass in turning rejection into rocket fuel. To really get the scale of Jack Ma's success, you have to understand the staggering depth of his failures. His story doesn't start with money or connections. It begins with relentless, soul-crushing rejection. Born in Hangzhou, China, in 1964 to traditional musician storytellers, Ma grew up in a poor home. His journey through school was, in his own words, a total disaster. He failed his primary school exams twice. He failed his middle school exams 3 times. And when it came to the biggest test in a young Chinese person's life, the Gaokao, or college entrance exam, he failed that twice too. His great weakness was math. On his first try, he scored a now legendary single point on the math test. In a system that valued academic brilliance above all else, Ma was branded a failure before he'd even really started. But the guy was persistent. After failing his college exam the first time, he applied for a job as a waiter at a local hotel with his cousin. The manager looked them over, hired his cousin on the spot, and then told Ma he was too skinny and short, and his appearance might hurt the hotel's image. This became a pattern. After finally, on his 3rd try, getting into what he called a third-rate school, the Hangzhou Teachers Institute, he graduated and started looking for a job. That search turned into a brutal lesson in getting doors slammed in his face. He applied for over 30 different jobs and was turned down by every single one. He tried to be a police officer. They took one look and dismissed him with 4 words. "You are no good." And then the KFC incident. It's become the most famous part of his story, a true rock-bottom moment. 24 applicants, 23 jobs hired. He was the statistical anomaly of failure. Imagine the weight of that. It wasn't just about one job. It was society repeatedly telling him he had nothing to offer. Schools, employers, even a fast food restaurant said no. Ma later reflected, "I think we have to get used to it. We're not that good." He had every reason to believe it was true. But somewhere inside him, another idea was starting to form. Maybe rejection wasn't the end, but just part of the training. While the world saw a loser, Ma was quietly building his greatest weapon, resilience. Getting into the Hangzhou Teachers Institute was less a victory and more a last resort. But it was a chance, and he grabbed it. He decided to become an English teacher, a job that seemed a million miles from the world of business. After graduating, he landed a gig as an English lecturer, making a measly $12 a month. For most, that would have been it. But for Ma, it was a training ground. He had a real passion for English, not just as a language, but as a window to the outside world. As a kid, he'd ride his bike for miles to a local hotel to give free tours to foreign tourists just to practice speaking. It was during one of these encounters that a pen pal gave him the English name Jack, and it stuck. This drive to connect, honed over years of free tours and low-paying teaching jobs, was the first real sign of his entrepreneurial spirit. In 1994, he took his first real business risk and started the Hope Translation Agency. It was a tiny venture to help local businesses talk to the outside world, and it struggled badly. At first, revenue was so low that Ma had to sell carpets and souvenirs on the side just to pay the rent. It wasn't a glamorous start. It was a grind. But it was the first time Jack Ma had created his own yes in a world of no's. It was proof that if no one would give him a job, maybe he could make one for himself. And it set him on the path for the most important trip of his life, a journey that would show him a glimpse of the future. The year is 1995. Jack Ma flies to the United States for the first time, acting as a translator for a Chinese company. He lands in Seattle, where a friend shows him something he's only heard rumors about: the internet. Sitting in a small office, his friend told him, "You can search for anything." Cautiously, Ma typed beer. Results for American beer, German beer, and Japanese beer popped up. He was blown away. Then, with a flicker of patriotic curiosity, he typed China. The result? Nothing. Not one single piece of information. It was as if his country of more than 1 billion people didn't exist in this new digital world. In that moment of digital silence, Jack Ma saw an opportunity, a massive one. He realized that if he could get Chinese businesses online, they could connect with customers anywhere on the planet. He understood with stunning clarity that the internet wasn't just a toy, it was going to completely change global commerce. He flew back to China, his mind racing. He quit his teaching job, borrowed about $2,000, and with zero knowledge of coding, launched one of China's very first internet companies, China Pages. It was a simple, and by his own admission, ugly, online directory for Chinese businesses that he built with a friend. The reaction? People thought he was insane. Friends and potential clients told him, "This is a stupid idea. We've never heard of the internet, and you know nothing about computers." For its first 3 years, China Pages made almost no money. By all conventional metrics, it was another failure. The company eventually collapsed after he was forced into a joint venture with a state-owned enterprise, and he lost control. He walked away defeated again, and even took a brief government job. But this failure was different. KFC taught him resilience. China Pages taught him about the incredible power of the internet and the danger of not having control over your own vision. He had seen the future, and now he knew he had to build it himself, on his own terms. If you believe that rejection can be the best form of redirection, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. The next chapter of this story is where everything changes, and you won't want to miss how a meeting in a tiny apartment sparked a global revolution. It's 1999. The setting isn't a fancy Silicon Valley boardroom, but a small, cramped apartment in Hangzhou. Jack Ma has gathered 17 of his friends and students. He stands before them not as a successful entrepreneur, but as a guy with a long list of failures and one unshakable idea. For 2 hours, he passionately lays out his vision: a new online marketplace for China's small and medium-sized businesses, a way for the little guys to compete on the world stage. He told them it was a huge risk. He couldn't promise them riches, but he could promise them a chance to build something that mattered. At the end of the speech, they all put their money on the table, pooling together about $60,000 to get started. He called the company Alibaba. The name came to him in a San Francisco coffee shop. He asked a waitress if she knew the story of Alibaba. She said, "Yes, open sesame." He loved that. It was universally known, and open sesame was the perfect metaphor for his mission, unlocking hidden treasures for small businesses. The early years were brutal. For the first 3 years, Alibaba had zero revenue. They were burning through cash. Once again, people called him Crazy Jack. He pitched his idea to venture capitalists in Silicon Valley over and over. More than 30 investors all told him no. They said his business model would never make money. The company was on the verge of collapse. Ma later remembered getting emails from customers who loved the platform but couldn't pay. They wrote, "This is such a great thing, but we cannot pay you." He held on to those messages. He believed if they were creating real value for people, the money would come eventually. Then, in 2000, came the lifeline. Ma met Masayoshi Son, the legendary founder of the Japanese investment firm SoftBank. Ma was only supposed to have 20 minutes to make his pitch, but after just 6 minutes of Ma passionately explaining his vision to help the little guys, Son was sold. He interrupted Ma and offered a massive investment. At first, Son wanted to invest $40 million, but Ma, remembering his experience with China Pages, turned it down, fearing he'd lose control. They finally agreed on a $20 million investment from SoftBank, plus funds from others like Goldman Sachs. It was the break they desperately needed. With fresh capital, Alibaba was ready for a fight, and a giant was heading straight for their home turf. In 2003, the undisputed king of global e-commerce, eBay, made its grand entry into China, acquiring the country's top auction site, EachNet. With a massive war chest and a proven model, eBay quickly captured over 70% of the market. It seemed inevitable they would crush any local challenger. For Jack Ma, this was a war for China's internet. He famously declared, "eBay may be a shark in the ocean, but I am a crocodile in the Yangtze River. If we fight in the ocean, we lose. But if we fight in the river, we win." His counterattack came from a secret project team inside Alibaba. The weapon was named Taobao, meaning searching for treasure. It was a consumer-to-consumer marketplace designed to go head-to-head with eBay. And Ma made a move that everyone thought was business suicide. Taobao would be completely free. While eBay charged fees for everything, Taobao charged nothing. But that was just the start. Ma understood the Chinese market in a way eBay's foreign managers never could. He knew Chinese business runs on relationships. eBay's platform kept buyers and sellers anonymous. Taobao did the opposite, adding instant messaging so people could talk, haggle, and build trust before buying. The masterstroke, however, was the creation of Alipay in 2004. In a market where almost no one had credit cards and trust in online payments was zero, Alipay introduced a revolutionary escrow system. When you bought something, your money went to Alipay, not the seller. Only after you confirmed you received your goods and were happy did Alipay release the funds. This one idea solved the single biggest obstacle to e-commerce in China: trust. The results were devastating for eBay. Taobao's free model and community-focused tools were a massive hit. Within a couple of years, the market had completely flipped. By 2006, eBay, the global giant, effectively waved the white flag and pulled out of the Chinese market. The crocodile had defeated the shark in its own river. Jack Ma hadn't just survived, he had won. On September 19, 2014, Jack Ma stood on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. The company he started in his apartment with $60,000 just launched the largest IPO in history, raising a staggering $25 billion. The man who couldn't get a job at KFC was now at the helm of a global empire. Looking back, Jack Ma's story isn't about avoiding failure. It's about using it. Every rejection was his real education. Failing his exams taught him to think differently than the straight-A students. Being turned down for 30 jobs taught him perseverance. The KFC incident taught him how to handle humiliation. The failure of China pages taught him to protect his vision. Each no was just a lesson preparing him for the next bigger challenge. He was rejected by the world, but he never rejected himself. His journey proves that where you start has nothing to do with where you finish. The world is full of people with great ideas, more money, and better connections. But the world belongs to those who get knocked down 30 times and have the courage to get up on the 31st. Jack Ma has a favorite saying that sums it all up. Today is cruel, tomorrow is crueler, and the day after tomorrow is beautiful. But most people die tomorrow evening. He survived. He saw the beautiful day after. And his story is the ultimate proof that if you don't give up, you still have a chance. Because giving up is the only true failure there is. What part of Jack Ma's story hits home for you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe that failure is just training for success, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories about the people who were told no and built a world of yes. Thanks for watching.